Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, who benefits the most from EV subsidies? That is electric vehicle subsidies. But before I get into today's feature, to all my viewers on YouTube, please forgive the quality right now. My camera is out, so I have to be using a low power webcam until my new vlogging camera arrives. I had to save up for it because I'm not really making much money doing this. This is just out of passion and a hobby. And I don't go around begging and asking for contributions. I'm just not there yet. I've been building this slowly, and hopefully one day it will take off. So it's just a hobby and nothing like that. Cameras have gotten very expensive. And in order to build a compact studio, I would have to put out so much more. But like I said, I'm doing this slowly. So those who have been rocking with me since day one, I really appreciate you hanging with me, as I know the quality may not be as good, but the information is valid. And this is both valuetainment and edutainment, educational entertainment. Now, let's get into this. So imagine our society as a large, diverse classroom. And in this classroom, the teacher, which is our government, introduces a new program to encourage students to read more books. And this program offers rewards like extra recess time or gold stars to those who read a certain number of books each month. This may sound great, right? But who benefits the most from this program? Is it the students who already love reading, or is it those who struggle to even pick up a book? Let's apply this analogy to electric vehicle subsidies. And these subsidies are essentially rewards from the government aimed at encouraging more people to switch to electric cars. But just like our classroom, we need to ask, who are the real beneficiaries? Before we dive into this feature, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and like and share. Let's begin this feature.
In survey after survey, consumers have said the biggest barrier to buying an electric vehicle is the price.
They remain kind of at the price point of what we used to consider luxury vehicles.
So, to help overcome that barrier and get more people into electric vehicles, the federal government pays buyers of a select group of EVs a subsidy of up to $5,000. That subsidy program cost the Treasury more than $900 million in the last 2 years and will eat up nearly $600 million this year.
That's a political way of putting it. It's costing the Treasury, but the Treasury is made up of tax dollars. If you're living here in Canada, you already know how high our taxes are, and we practically pay for everything. As a matter of fact, it's between 68 to up to 70% of our hard-earned income goes directly to taxes. So there's hardly any room for us to actually wiggle. And it is one of the reasons why a lot of Canadians are rethinking what are the benefits of remaining in Canada. And a lot of people are just leaving, packing up shop and leaving. Most businesses are heading south. As it says, Texas, the state of Texas has a higher GDP per capita than all of Canada's provinces put together. It's just sad. Let's continue.
But those $5,000 rebate checks tend to go to some of the country's wealthiest consumers.
I do find that EV ownership is biased towards affluent households for, in part, the simple reason that EVs today are simply more expensive than the average car.
Global News did its own analysis using motor vehicle registration data cross-referenced against household income data for federal ridings. And sure enough, ridings with high household income also had the most EV owners. Take the 7 ridings in Vancouver, for example, here arranged by median income, lowest to highest. Now, here's the number of electric vehicles in each riding per 1,000 people. Higher income levels equals higher rates of EV ownership. That's a correlation that holds in communities right across the country.
The wealthier you are, the more likely you are to consider an electric vehicle.
And it's just not only just common sense, but you actually see it in the lower income neighborhoods, you hardly ever will see an electric vehicle because it's not practical for them. But let's look at the beneficiaries of electric vehicles, which is the consumers. The middle to high income individuals are more likely to purchase electric vehicles because they can afford the higher upfront costs, even with the subsidies. And these buyers gain the most from the subsidies as they offset the initial expense, making the transition to EV smoother and more appealing for them. However, what about the average or low income families? As you see the perfect example here, and I'm happy that mainstream media has caught on, or they actually knew, but because there's not much more to report anymore, they are slowly coming into what the reality of the situation is. So often these families, low income families, can't afford an EV even with the subsidies, meaning they don't benefit directly. Instead, they might benefit indirectly through clean air and reduced fuel costs if more people switch to EVs. That's the only other alternative, hoping that more of the affluent afford electric vehicles and it doesn't give off as much emissions as they will say. However, the majority of vehicles on the road are from low income families and households. Automakers, especially those investing heavily in EV technology, are the big winners because the subsidies drive demand for their electric models, allowing them to scale production, reduce costs, and increase profits. That's basically what they would like. So companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM have significantly benefited from these incentives, and it helps to accelerate their transition to electric fleets. On the flip side, however, traditional automakers who haven't pivoted as quickly towards electric vehicles may find themselves at a disadvantage. They're pressured to catch up, invest heavily in new technologies, and risk losing market share or completely shuttering their business, just like Arrival, Lordstown, or even Fisker right now, who has recently filed for bankruptcy in order to restructure operations.
Which means higher income Canadians have been disproportionate beneficiaries of generous federal EV subsidies.
So I would say it is appropriate in this particular context, and it's appropriate because when you have new technology that needs to be adopted, you actually need early adopters to start.
The government believes subsidizing richer consumers to buy their new cars is one way to drive down EV prices.
You need to actually have them catalyze a market to be able to actually drive down the cost such that you don't need the subsidies over the long term.
Now, there are some signs that prices of EVs are dropping. Consider this data point. The average price of a new car in Canada in March, and this includes gas-powered vehicles, was $64,000. But there are now 30 models of electric vehicles below that price point in the market here, and that's before the federal subsidy. Neither.
All right, David Aiken in Ottawa. Thanks for that, David.
As the saying goes, if you allow a politician to talk long enough, eventually they tell on themselves, especially these new age politicians. They lack charisma, they lack the know-how in terms of standard operating procedures, policies, and judiciary information in order to just how it will actually impact the society on a whole. And what they do is place people in boxes, and only a few benefit while the others have to adjust based on the policies that will come by, because they don't look at nation building as a whole, quick fix situations, and then they scramble to find solutions and hopefully that the market would actually adjust itself. And that's basically my experience so far with today's new age politicians. That's what I call them. But just like in our classroom analogy, there's a broader impact. As more consumers are expected to switch to electric vehicles, we all benefit from the reduced greenhouse gas emissions, less noise pollution, and decreased reliance on fossil fuels. That was the saying, but we erode the environment in order to afford these electric vehicles that they have bestowed up on us. And as you can see in this particular feature, Global News, is that they are dependent on the richer individuals to purchase these electric cars, and then it will have a trickle-down effect to the consumers, hopefully building up a used car market. We have so far coined certain terms like pre-owned and certified pre-owned cars. Those are just fancy terms for used cars. And that's what they were hoping to do. And that is actually backfiring, especially in the electric car market. As you can see, Hertz dumped over 20,000 of its fleet, and they are struggling to actually dispose of those cars to other consumers like myself. I will never buy a used electric car, at least not for now, because the initial startup cost to have one of those cars parked in my garage downstairs, I don't have the charging capabilities to charge that vehicle overnight, and it's going to cost me a hefty sum, even with the EV subsidies. And I stand corrected, I don't think EV subsidies are available for the used market. So the environmental benefits, hopefully they said, can lead to better public health and a more sustainable future. That's what they were thinking. But in conclusion, while middle to high income consumers and EV manufacturers are the primary beneficiaries of electric vehicle subsidies, the triple effects touch us all. Taxes paid by all of us. We are a long way from environmental improvements and the promised advancement in renewable energy. These subsidies should be playing a crucial role in shaping our future instead of being used to fund the lifestyle of the rich. And basically that what it is right now is an encouragement all of us that we all should just get rich. That's the bottom line, because only the rich can afford to do and enjoy certain things. But what do you think? Are the benefits of EV subsidies distributed fairly, or is there more we can do to make them accessible to everyone? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button for more insights and discussions. Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.